The European Union has imposed sanctions on Russian gas for the first time in its latest response to the conflict in Ukraine. Russian exporters will be banned from using European ports to transfer liquefied natural gas for exporting to third countries.
European financing for new Russian LNG terminals will also be blocked. But the announcement stops far short of a complete ban. Gas will continue to flow through pipes to some EU countries.
Angelos Koutsis is from Bond-based Leefmilieu, a Belgium-based environmental NGO. Angelos, good to see you. Are sanctions ever effective?
Sanctions can definitely be effective, especially the sanction that is now being approved or will be officially approved next Monday on transshipment, because Russian Arctic LNG is not like common LNG. It has one problem, and that is its access to global markets. And it's dependent on transshipment services in the EU to access global markets. So with this sanction, we would basically be cutting them off almost entirely from access to global markets.
Just to be clear, these sanctions will stop short, though, won't they, of a full ban on EU countries purchasing Russian LNG. Is that not the case? And if so, why?
No, you're completely right. It's not a full Russian LNG ban. If we look at the numbers, you can divide the Russian LNG flow to Europe into categories. Russian LNG that's being imported by the EU, that's about 75% of the LNG that's coming to our ports. And the other 25% is being transshipped to mostly non-EU markets. And the reason why probably they didn't address a full Russian LNG ban is because the Ukrainian transit pipeline, which imports Russian pipeline gas, it will be cut off starting 2025. And it seems to me that EU leaders are playing it safe and are awaiting next winter how they come out of it to start discussing a full Russian LNG ban.
Well, that must be a very serious concern for governments in Europe, because given those concerns about the EU running out of gas and the need to try and meet storage targets, how will these sanctions affect the EU's energy security, especially this winter?
Yeah, so the EU sanction on transshipment ban will basically have almost no impact on EU's security of supply. As I mentioned before, about 90% of the transshipped Russian LNG volumes don't go to the EU itself, but go to other markets around the globe. So actually they represent only 0.3% of the total EU gas demand. So that's very negligible. If we make a comparison, if you have a hot or cold winter, that changes the gas demand with 5%. So it's a marginal effect, if we could say so.
Marginal or otherwise, if the LNG isn't coming from Russia, what are the alternatives for the EU to replace it?
Well, actually, as mentioned before, this transshipped LNG, the EU doesn't necessarily need it. It's just let's say, a favor that we're doing for Moscow to help them have access to global markets. And today, the EU decided to stop doing that favor for Moscow. But also, generally speaking, if we look at the numbers, we see that the EU has been quite successful in drastically reducing their gas demand since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia. So most of the LNG that's been cut off, or the Russian gas imports that have been cut off, were not replaced by diversification, but most of it was actually replaced by energy efficiency measures and investment in renewable energies.
Angelos, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Angelos Koutsis from Bond-based Leefmilieu.